Good night, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Dialogue with the Diaspora. I am your host, Diane Haylock. Over the decades, we have come to appreciate that Belize is full of talent. And tonight, I have the pleasure of speaking with two Belizean creatives who are living in the United States. In this first segment, we get to meet Marco Aguilar. Marco is a contemporary realist painter who focuses on the elements and nature. Marco cannot remember a time when he was not involved in something creative, and he has been drawing ever since he could hold a pencil. In addition to his accomplishments in the art world, he is also an award-winning stage actor, director, choreographer, and set designer. Good evening and welcome to the show, Marco.
Oh, hello.
I am really fascinated by your artwork, but before we get into that, let us start off with asking you about your Belizean roots, your family, where you grew up, and when you migrated to the US.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Belize City. My parents are Janice and Jaime Aguilar, and I went to St. Joseph Elementary School in Belize City, and then on to St. John's College, the high school, where I studied under the late, great Michelle Perdomo in art. So I've been drawing for as long as I can remember, but I didn't pick up painting until St. John's College. And then I went on to the St. John's College sixth form, where I studied art under Mrs. Perdomo as well. And I was there, grew up in Belize, bounced between Belize and Miami growing up, but mostly in Belize, and then moved to the United States in 1993. So I'm originally was studying medicine, well, not medicine, but science. I was gonna actually go on to be a doctor. I was the doctor in the family, supposedly. And then about halfway through sixth form, I said, I hate this. And I like the idea of helping people,
right?
But I wasn't up for all that school. So I basically told my parents I was gonna go try to be an actor in New York. And so I always did art and stage stuff.
And
your
parents accepted that at the time?
No, I think my dad always wanted to be a doctor, but never got to it. So was hoping I would be. And then my mom, wanted me to be a doctor as well. And actually, it's funny stories. My mom told me, son, there are thousands of unemployed actors in New York. And I said, then I'll be 1,001, Mom. So I was determined to have a life in the arts.
So when you left, it was actually to try and pursue that acting career?
Yes, it was try to be an actor in New York. I flew to New York at age 17 to audition for Juilliard, and from Belize. And here I was, this little Belize kid going to New York, and there were kids who had gone to the so-and-so drama high school and this and that, and I didn't know anything. And actually,
Juilliard is a name that we probably hear a lot more of as it pertains to, to the various art forms.
Yes, and actually, the late great Beverly Lopez is Beverly Smith, I guess it was. Right?
Beverly Smith Lopez.
Yeah. Yes. So she was the one who coached me for my audition, and so I actually went to New York. It was American Idol. I got there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people the very first day of auditions, and they only had 18 slots. So I didn't even get in. And so I ended up moving to Los Angeles to try the acting as well, and fell in with the theater community there in California. And painting just took a back seat. I was not even thinking of art. And I ended up performing for the theme parks, and then eventually I needed a job because that job went seasonal, and I got a job working in an art gallery and working as a picture framer. and selling art. And then it just kind of rekindled everything. And
But Marco,
I started.
you're very young when you start off. I mean, 17. I
Yeah,
mean, that's a very tender age,
yeah,
especially
yeah.
for a young man, because it takes a while for maturity to set in. And so you
Right.
go off and on your own. I mean, you had relatives, family in the U.S. that you went to. How did this all
I
happen?
I actually have a brother that lives here in California, an older brother. So I moved in with him till I got on my feet. So he graciously took me in for 2 years while I got on my feet, and then I actually needed to get on my own, and I still wasn't making enough money to quite support myself.
Yes, it is a
So
very
this
difficult area,
Right. So this
indeed.
opportunity came up where I could be a caretaker for an elderly gentleman in exchange for rent. And so that's what I did that for a couple years to get myself established and start making enough money where I could live on my own. And I just worked in the art gallery for many years and then got heavily involved in the local theater scene. So went off to study dance and vocal performance and acting, and I've done tons of shows, probably over 100 stage plays and musicals, mostly musicals. And
You
now
sing?
yes, yes, I sing, I dance.
A good singer?
So that's what they tell me. I've won awards, so we'll see. I know everybody keeps saying we see your paintings, but when are we going to see singing videos? So hopefully that's coming soon on YouTube and stuff. But yeah, dancer, jazz, tap, a little bit of ballet, modern, Broadway style dancing.
So, if I'm understanding you correctly, you were basically doing classes in these different art forms on the side while you continue to work?
Yes, yes. And then and I worked in the art gallery and I was doing classes in all these different disciplines and going down to Los Angeles because I live about 45 minutes north of Los Angeles. And so I was going down to LA proper to Hollywood to audition for stuff, and it's just a tough road. It's a tough
Yes,
road,
it
and
certainly is.
everybody's just as good, if not better.
Yeah.
And
So you could understand your parents' fears about
right,
you making
right.
the decision to move from medicine into studying and working
Exactly. So
in the whole area of the creatives, really. Yeah.
right. And then I fell into I picked up the art again. And so what happened was the owner of the gallery said, these are actually really good. So let's put them in the gallery to see if they sell. And we put them in the gallery and they sold. And we put more up and they sold. And he says, I guess you're professional now. And so somebody suggested that I try teaching. And so I said, well, I don't know how to teach. And so they were doing this program through the Michael's Arts and Crafts stores where they were trying to promote acrylic paint. And so they trained you how to teach. And so I started teaching. And then there's a big convention in Las Vegas, which is, I think what the pictures are flashing through, they're from a couple different conventions. So there's a big convention in Las Vegas and somebody dropped my name. They said, you guys need some fresh teachers here. There's a guy in California. You need to give him a call. He's interesting. He's got great art. He's got a good story. And so, and the lady organizing it said, oh, he's kind of cute too. So he'll sell some classes.
But I find it very interesting that you went this non-traditional route to get your education in the arts, because most people will go to university or to these well-known art schools.
Right.
But as you said before, you did these classes on the side. You come into being a contemporary realist painter by working in this gallery, and the
Right.
people there discovering, in a way, discovering you and your work. It's really a very, very unusual path that you
Yeah.
took to get to where you are today.
Yeah. The gallery was really, I ended up joining the art community, and it's really school of hard knocks kind of thing. I've worked for everything I have. I'm virtually self-taught. I learned all the basics in Belize, but the current style, I would be in galleries and go, look how neat that painting is. And I'd look at it and go, I could do that. And I would sit there and try to reverse engineer the painting and try to figure out how the artist did it. And, read a lot of books on art process and did a lot of research. And so the current style is virtually self-taught.
Well, that's one of the things with quite a lot of the artists in Belize. If you look at Belize greats like George Gabb, Pen Cayetano, they were all self-taught for the most part and developed their distinctive styles on
Right.
their own. Yeah.
Yeah, and I come from a family of artists. My mom's side, there are many artists, uncles and great uncles who are all artists. In my family, my younger brother also paints. My sister is very artistic. So we came from a lot of artists in the family.
Good.
And the teaching just blew up. It turned into this whole thing where I went to this convention and I sold out in a week. And so, because I guess I was different. And so they called me up and said, you sold out. We need to add a second session of all your classes. So I said, okay. And in a month, they said, you sold out. We need to add a third session of all your classes. So I said, okay. And they called, we sold out again. So apparently in 25 years, nobody had sold out like that. And so they said, we definitely want you back next year. And it turned into quite this event. And that's when the paint companies say, hey, you got something here. We want to sponsor you, provide all your paint for all your conventions. And then now I'm looking to develop my own line of paint brushes. And so it's really turning into this whole business that I didn't expect for it to be, especially in the realm of education. So now people say, well, do you travel teach? And I said, what's that? And they said, well, we fly you out to our area. We pay for everything. We pay you to teach, and you teach to our art group. And so now I'm traveling all over the country, these groups. I mean, COVID put a stop to that. So I switched to an online format. So I do online, but they're starting up with the travel again. I'm looking to book Oregon in a couple months, and I'm going to Oklahoma in a couple months. And it's just, I travel all over the United States teaching these seminars. And I never thought that was the direction that I was going to head. But I'm getting more known as this instructor, than
Marco, I want to go back to the acting part of your life, because when you started out in Belize, as you said, you were doing the drawings, and then you went on to do painting, and then when you were leaving Belize, you said you wanted to do acting. What attracted you to doing acting?
Yeah, I've always wanted to be an actor. From the time I was a little kid, I always wanted to do it. And I would do every little school play. I would do everything. I was a member of the drama club at St. John's College, at St. John's sixth form, or I guess now they call it junior college, St. John's Junior College. I was the president of their drama club. I produced shows for them, directed shows for them, starred in shows for them. And I really developed a passion for the stage particularly. And so that's why my first, idea was to go to New York, not go Los Angeles. And so then when I came to California, there was quite the theater community here. And I got on stage and everybody's like, who's this guy? I actually had to work on losing my Belizean accent because I was not getting roles.
Right.
Because my accent was so thick.
They wanted a standard,
right.
Standard American English accent.
Yeah, they actually call it. Yeah, they actually call it Standard American, which is funny. And so, my daughter is in school conservatory in New York, and that's what they teach them is Standard American. So, so I had to work at that and learning that, and then people were like, oh, you can dance too. Well, can you learn this number? And I said, yeah. And it was in the Broadway style of dancing. And I just kind of took to it right away. And so they said, oh, well, you have raw talent, but you need training. So my whole thing was I was going to pursue this. So I started getting into classes and started joining dance studios and doing all kinds of stuff. And then that led to somebody said, well, you're a good dancer. Do you want to choreograph a show? And so I said, okay. And then I ended up choreographing something. And then I decided, I want to direct now. And so I took directing classes. And
so it seems to me you have had quite an adventure.
Yes. I'm the true Renaissance man. Everything artistic.
Indeed.
Everything artistic. Yeah.
But having gone down both paths, and you had to choose between acting and painting. Which would you choose?
Oh, that is tough. That is tough. Because, what's funny, you mentioned that because I actually had, one of the things my students say that's interesting in my classes is I tell stories. So I tell stories and I tell stories about everything. But one of the things I tell stories about is the shows that I'm in. And some of the people find that interesting and they'll say, well, why don't you sing for us? And so I'll say, okay, everybody get their paintings done and I'll sing for you guys. And so we work on that. But I had one lady give me a critique, says, I think your heart is in acting more because you talk about acting a lot. And, I go back and forth. I've got to be honest with you. I just directed, a couple of years ago, I directed a production of Disney's The Little Mermaid. And I decided this is me, this is underwater, this is tropical, so we're gonna decorate the whole theater to look like under the sea, kind of thing. So I did all the painting, I did all the set painting, I helped design the concepts and I felt alive. I felt alive not only from creating art, but I felt alive from the creating art in the sense of the performance as well as the painting aspect of it. So that's a tough one. That's a tough one to make a choice, because I really do enjoy both. I'm kind of known for painting water scenes a lot and wildlife. So a couple of the teachers in the circuit call me the Water King. So somebody says, oh, I don't know how to paint this wave. And they're like, oh, talk to the Water King. He'll give you tips on how to do that. So that's a tough question. That's a loaded question. Hard to choose.
But currently you're getting paid by doing both things.
Most of the money comes from my art, from my fine art, as opposed to because COVID killed the theater industry pretty much. But COVID ironically was a good thing for artists and teachers because we all switched to an online format and people needed something to do. So they started taking online classes. And so we all the teachers had to go invest in camera equipment and all that stuff to teach classes and Zoom accounts and everything to teach classes online. But that's actually where right now most of my income is coming from painting and teaching painting. I'm proud to say I actually get art-related income every month.
Good.
Whether it be from teaching or whether it be from selling products with my artwork that they've licensed to my artwork to put on a phone case or on a throw pillow or on a calendar or a puzzle or anything like that, because because that's a whole other side of the business is they license your artwork and put it on products. So I get income from that. I get income from teaching. I get income from selling of originals, selling of prints. So that is a good thing. And I've worked really hard to get there, but I'm proud to say that I actually get art-related income every single month, if not every week.
Of course, Belizeans here who might be listening to, who have tuned into our show, might well be wondering, I certainly am wondering, what advice would you give to a Belizean creative person who might want to go down this very, very non-traditional, route to get to where they want to be? What would you say about that?
The big thing is you have to not be afraid to put the work in, and you can't give up. I've been doing this for well over 20 years. There's a famous story where people are telling Tom Hanks, "Oh, you were an overnight success." He's like, "Yeah, 20 years later, because I've been doing this since I was really, really young." But it's the same thing. Most of my success as an artist, I'll be honest with you, has happened in the last 5 years. And the last 5 years, and I've been doing this for about 20 years and really pursuing it professionally going on at least, I've been teaching about 11 years, but pursuing the art professionally for about 15 to 20 years. And so the big thing is, you just can't give up, and you have to keep that hunger inside you. Whatever it is, whatever drives you, you got to keep that inside of you. And unfortunately, I hate to say this, it's a cliche, but it's not what you know, it's who you know. So network.
That's very important, yes.
Social media is huge. Social media is huge for artists. And one of the top number one things that I can tell people, and you cannot be afraid to self-promote. Because somebody told me, "Man, you're the king of self-promotion. You always put yourself on here. You put pictures of this, you put pictures of that." I said, "Yeah, but there's an end result to it. And there's a method to my madness, and you can't be afraid to self-promote." And it's a lot of networking. The teaching thing happened because of networking. Somebody took my class, somebody thought it was great. Somebody dropped my name to these people told that people, and they buy your art because they find you interesting. So, they love your art, but you're also selling yourself, and you're trying to make you interesting as well. So that's why I approach it, got a couple different angles. They want to see me singing, they want to see me dancing, they want to see me do all of this stuff. Oh, he can paint too. So
Marco, I want to ask you, because it's always important in terms of the connections that our diaspora people make back with Belize.
Right.
Have you had opportunities to share some of all that you are with Belize, even putting off art shows or?
I have not. I've talked. It's gotten as far as conversations, but it never went any further than that. Because even for all of, albeit my success, or if you want to call it that, I always tell people I'm still on that starving artist budget. California is expensive to live, and especially the Los Angeles area. And so to travel overseas, it would definitely have to be something that I would do with sponsors, like through the Belize. I don't know if there's even a Belize Arts Council or anything.
Well, there's a National Institute of Culture and History.
Right.
Like everything in Belize, that is going through a difficult time as a result of COVID.
Right. Yes, and the big thing. Oh, another thing. What I've mentioned with artists is you have to niche down. You have to find your niche as far as what makes you you. And one of the things is what's your distinctive style. You know, you have to find your voice as an artist. What's your style? And in my teaching, what do you bring to the industry? So in my case, the circles that I am in, a lot of times the teachers will teach, say, we're going to teach you how to paint a project. Well, I teach technique. So I teach you how to, it's the, you know, give a man a fish eats for a day, teach a man to fish eats for the rest of his life kind of thing, where I actually will teach you not how to paint this painting, but how to paint a sunset sky. So you can apply that to several paintings. And so that's my whole thing. So now I'm looking into getting into the YouTube channel and doing instructional videos in acrylic specifically, because there's a lot of oil painting videos, but not much acrylic. And acrylic is the most popular paint medium in the world. And there are barely any acrylic videos, especially ones that teach technique. But yeah, as far as connecting with Belize, I would love to go back to Belize. I would love to share. I've had a couple Belizeans in California reach out to me for critiques, for things about their art. And I'm always happy to help. I'm always happy to speak with fellow Belizeans who reach out to me on social media. You know, but yeah, I'd love to go back to Belize. I haven't been back in so long. And lately it's been calling my name. It's been calling my name to go back home.
Perhaps it's too long, so we really want to encourage you to come back and share some of that amazing talent that you have. One last question there, though, is if people wanted to check out or even buy your artwork, where is this available?
So they can reach me. There are a couple ways. So I'm on Instagram, which is Artistic Marco, just one word, Artistic Marco. But main place is my website, which is Marco's Art. So MarcosArt, marcosart.com. So on marcosart.com, there's a contact us button there. You can always send me a message. You can reach out to me on Facebook, Marco Antonio Aguilar. You can reach out to me on Instagram. I'm all over. If you Google me, Google artist Marco Antonio Aguilar, all kinds of stuff pops up. I'm very, much on there. Even my friends have said, man, you are really out there. We Googled you and there's a lot of stuff. But yeah, if they want to reach out to me through social media, through my website, I always look forward to hearing from fellow Belizeans.
Marco, you're a truly talented Belizean artist, and it was simply delightful for me chatting with you this evening. Keep on creating beautiful pieces and continue to make us proud. Thanks again for joining us tonight.
All righty. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Viewers, we will take a short break and be right back with another Belizean creative. Welcome back to Dialogue with the Diaspora. Diane Haylock here with you again. I continue to be impressed and inspired by our Belizean creatives, both at home and abroad, and the strides that they have made in their respective fields. In this second segment, I'll be talking to a fine art photographer who has been making his mark in St. Louis, Missouri. Charles Turnell is currently a project manager for operational excellence for a managed care company. He's a versatile IT management professional positioned to drive responsible progression, cultural transformation, and authentic results. While that is his business side, Charles has a deep passion for photography and has pursued his passion with great enthusiasm. He's participated in many exhibitions, has won several awards. But, you know, I will let him tell us about his photography. Good evening and welcome, Charles.
Good evening and welcome for that really nice introduction. So yeah,
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you. Yeah, it's kind
You
of
know, I have to say that I know of only one Turnell family in Belize, and the name immediately takes me back to big equipment and machinery on Cemetery Road in Belize, yeah? So
yes,
please, tell us
that's
about your
right.
Belizean roots to begin.
Right. So, Cemetery Road is exactly where it begins, like Sefa said, Yabande or Bande. But so yeah, I grew up in that field with my dad, Victor Turnell, and my mother, Benita. She's from Orange Walk. But yeah, I grew up and everyone knows me for that and driving the trucks and the cranes. And that's how I grew up and all over Belize City. With the messenger and the market. And so a lot of fun memories growing up there without TV at the time. And I think that's kind of like where my influence came. I have that light behind me. So let me adjust that light. And anyway, so the influence for me primarily came from that, growing up with these equipment and these trucks and driving all over Belize and seeing the beauty everywhere in Belize. My favorite parts are really the West, Cayo, Mount Pine Ridge, and that particular area. It's so much to discover and see. And so that's more or less the Turnell name, right? That's how I grew up.
So when did you migrate to the U.S. and what made you move away from working with all this equipment and going off to the United States?
So at the time, in Belize, in the mid 80s, we didn't have the university opportunity. And, when you graduate from high school there and sixth form, you really don't have the options at that time for affording education. And so I came actually here to St. Louis, through St. John's College, the Jesuit connection there. And many Belizeans come here actually, just recently several graduated from here. But that's how come I ended up coming here. And I thought I would go and study architecture. But I started really working a lot in the civil engineering. And that's when I started to, that's the first part of my education. But at the same time is when I started to develop the computer exposure, the computer industry. And that's where I started working in the computer field. And eventually I got my degree from St. Louis University here. And then started to work in the computer field because I spoke Spanish. And so that's kind of where the world opened up for me. I actually went to work in Spain. But yes, it's the roots that you referred to at the beginning, the heavy equipment machinery. So I was developing applications for heavy equipment, for factory settings, for aviation, aircraft maintenance is the root of it. But that's where the core is. I developed the computer skills and I came here for college. Never planned, St. Louis is where I'm going to go live and so forth, but it was just where the opportunities evolved. And so, and it opened up the world for me, which was really, again, I always go back to the roots from Belize. We had no TV and the National Geographic magazine in particular. So I traveled the world at the time, just reading those magazines.
So when you finished university in St. Louis, you basically stayed there, but then you moved on, traveled around, worked in different places. What were you doing? What have you been doing?
So when I graduated from St. Louis University, the opportunity there was to for a company from here, a defense contractor at the time, wanted someone to go to Spain to go help develop a maintenance program for aircraft and for factories over there, a small company from St. Louis. And that was the opportunity that presented itself. I took it, I went, but I actually came back from Spain in 1993. And I did go to Belize and I stayed there for a year. I did a project there in Belize out by my parents' house. I took that house and raised it up. And I wanted to go back to Belize at the time. My vision was to come back to Belize. I wanted to get involved in agriculture at the time by the Borough Boom area and do a project there. But I couldn't get it off the ground or really pursue it. So I came back, and by then the route was established here in St. Louis. And then that took me to Argentina. So I worked in Argentina for a few years, in South America, and really that's where the travel, began for me. And as you could see in the background, that picture, the orca whales, is part of the photography that I started to take it seriously. And these are all slide film at that time. There wasn't digital at the time. So these are scanned slide films, and that's kind of where I started to begin with the art exploration.
So let's get into the photography, which clearly is a passion for you. What was your inspiration?
Well, my mother actually had a lot of artistic talent, and in fact, she taught me to draw. Not that I'm a good, I can't draw, I guess, to save myself, but she started that, and then my dad with my first camera, and that's kind of where it really began. But it began with the influence from the National Geographic magazine, looking and exploring the world, seeing all the great pictures in there, and then that cultural inquisitiveness when I started to travel around the world. Something like my first vacation I ever took, on my own, I went to Germany, and the camera has always been along with me everywhere. People know me for that. So all the different companies that I've worked for, that they all have images and pictures and things from my background. But that's really where it began.
How long have you been doing photography, and what has this experience been like for you?
So it opens up doors for me. It's travel, and it really began in the mid 90s. After I left Belize in 1993, and I came back here, and I went to Argentina. It really opened up the world for me at that time, and that's the camera, and all my different experiences and traveling at the time. My camera would always be there. I wanted to capture the culture, the details, the nature, and the landscapes. So that is a big part of it as they're scrolling through some of the fine artwork there. But yeah, it's really that time. I just really had the passion to capture the world, embrace the world.
We're seeing
beautiful.
these amazing images on screen, and you refer to it, of course, as fine art photography. Now, perhaps for many of our audience, they may not quite understand what it means by fine art photography. How would you define it?
So this work here is really, one influence. I must just back up a second. Is a lot of the mosaics from the Ottoman era in the Mediterranean, the Turkish, and so each of these pictures, this has become my style. My niche is really mosaics. So these are mosaics that are compiled from all my different pictures. It's more in the realm of digital art, and I take pictures of flowers that become my palette. So these are all mosaics, pointed little dots that make up an image. And I have in every one of these images 300 different select macro. That's my palette. Macro photography is the beginning point, and I assemble them to create these final images here that I've taken in my travels. And that becomes my palette. So I'm trying to express the concept here of see beauty everywhere. And that's really a big driver for me in all these cultures is to see beauty everywhere we go.
Are you doing other types of photography, Charles?
I do, a lot of the photography and the projects that I want to go into are really around two big issues. One, immigration or refugees, and the other one is around sustainability. As growing up in Belize, we didn't have the little shops around the corner where you could just go buy replacement parts. You had to fix things, take care of things. And so that has always stayed with me. I won an award for a company here in the Green Business Initiatives. So that is my Terra series, which I'm building out right now with flowers. I'm sorry, butterflies and animals. And then my See Beauty Everywhere series, which is the ones you were scrolling through. And then I have my Refugee series, which is really trying to say, we have to see beauty everywhere. And that is much more of a deeper concept of, reflection, thirst, education, other things. That's a big passion for me in the culture side.
So I know that you're doing the IT professional stuff as a way to earn a living. Is photography just a hobby or more than that for you?
Actually, it's a hobby that has evolved into the fine art space. So in the last 2 years, I am really starting to do some of this work. So in Los Angeles 2 years ago, I won a award second best in show for one of my pieces, the Big Suit, which is a fine art piece. And I have actually a show opening this coming weekend here in St. Louis. Again, but I have taken the route of going into the more of the gallery route. You know, I have to work, so I don't have time to market and promote my work. And so I've gone through this gallery. So I have a gallery here that selected some of my work. Actually, has been looking at my work for the last 2 years. And so yes, I get revenue from my work. I've sold probably over 100 of my fine art photos for a lot more marketing commercial applications, and I've sold 10 of my fine art pieces.
So the business side of the photography has been fairly good, you would say, up to this point.
Yes, yeah, it is. If I had the time to promote my work and deal with it, it would work. People are interested in something unique and different, especially the fine art pieces.
So what is the long-term plan in this field for you?
So as soon as I have 3 kids, my wife is from Belize, and they're in the college, getting into college age now, so they'll soon be gone. And so then after that, pack up my camera. I will travel. I will explore. There's a whole world out there. I want to come to Belize and do a project. I spoke with the late Johnny Woods at the time, the last time I was in Belize in 2014. And we actually spoke about coming there to do a project at the time, but that did not materialize. And but yeah, that's it. Once I'm able to retire from the formal work stream, and then I will grab the camera and travel. But I'm building the base. That's how the approach is right now.
So there's a possibility that we will see a Charles Turnell art show in Belize sometime soon.
I hope so. That would be great. I think it would be, a wonderful thing. It's, it's encouraging. It's good to like this program. Just because, I grew up in Belize. I know many people there. A lot of people see my work on Facebook. So the roots are there, and I would be delighted to be able to come and share some of that and what I'm doing, and hopefully encourage other people to get involved. I think that's it. Your true colors will always come through and follow you.
Because your technique, your style is so unusual. Looking at it, is this something that you've done anything about in terms of teaching, sharing that with your technique with other people there in the U.S.?
So my style has evolved over time. Definitely there's some influences there, and I've tried to teach my daughter. I have 2 boys and my daughter, 1 girl, three kids. And I've tried to, expose my daughter a little bit with this technique. And so I use, as I said, the palette is my flowers and so forth. But I use Lightroom. There's tools that you use, and I use Lightroom and Photoshop. And the images that I make, they're pretty large. And I've kind of shown my kids a little bit, and I always get their input. But for the moment, it's just been that. I've had people ask me to take them and go teach photography and do other things, but I haven't really pursued it. I've just, taken my friends and primarily my kids, try to teach them a little bit.
Where can people check out your photography?
It's my website is just simply my name, charlesturnell.com. And, of course, and the name, I should have said, you'd know the name of my website. You'll see 501 Design Studio. I chose the name 501 actually at the time because of the error code of Belize, 501. So with the hopes of building something there for my kids to take over, this whole portfolio of work, eventually it will be theirs. So that's some of the thinking behind it.
Charles, do you have any words of advice for all budding Belizean photographers here at home?
Well, start at home. The Belize is so beautiful. See beauty everywhere. Is really, you can walk around just Belize City, and I just don't have my portfolio updated, but because I have to scan my pictures. But there's so many nice, places in Belize. Just being in Belize City, you can develop your style. Go take pictures, and learn your style, and that's doing the homework, and then just the country itself. There's so much to see, and then promote some of that work, because you're on the ground there. There's people that will be interested in it, and that's it. Dedicate to it, pursue it, and try things. You'll never know where it might take you. You have to just try and get out there and do some of it.
Charles Turnell, thank you so much for joining us tonight and sharing your passion for photography. I know that I'm not being biased when I say that your work is absolutely stunning. Keep it up, and I wish you continued success. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good night. Bye.
Viewers, we now take a short pause for our final ad break. Viewers, thank you for staying tuned into Dialogue with the Diaspora. Our guests tonight, Marco and Charles, were both remarkable. I'm especially delighted that they have both been able to pursue their passions in the visual arts. Arts is one of the avenues through which persons can best express their own identity, their passions, their dreams, the things that make their emotions roar or even keep them up at night. Through arts, people are able to tell stories, inspire others, and deliver powerful calls to action. And like Marco and Charles demonstrated, in arts, people are even able to earn a living. We hope that Belize's art industry continues to develop, and that throughout our households and school curricula, I hope our young minds are encouraged to be creative, encouraged to think outside the box, and encouraged to color outside the lines. Charles and Marco are great products of such encouraging environments, and their success abroad can be duplicated here at home, over and over and over again. With that, though, our time is up for tonight, but we will be back again next Thursday at 7 p.m. right here on CBTV and on Facebook on Colorblind's page. Good night and take good care.